Thank you so much.
For those looking in the brochure thinking Chloe looks very different, there has been a slight change of plan, and I'll be your moderator here today. And so in today's discussion, we are bringing together leaders from across industries who are embedding gender equality and violence prevention into the heart of business strategy. And together we'll explore how these companies can move beyond compliance to meaningful action, ensuring that workplaces, products and platforms become part of the solution. So immediately to my right is Tara Hopkins, who is the Global Director of Public Policy at Instagram/Meta, where she works on youth wellbeing, the creator economy, and a broader regulatory issues for the company. And beside her is Badia Barada, a communications and policy and public policy expert, and currently leads corporate affairs in Europe for Match Group. And she has held similar roles at Uber, Headspace, and Bloomberg Philanthropies. But I'm going to go straight into the questions, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
All right. So first of all, I'm going to start with you, Tara. There are billions of users worldwide, and Instagram plays a major role in shaping how people connect, communicate, and express themselves. And so what is Instagram doing to make the platform safer? And how does that work connect to the broader effort to prevent gender-based violence?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you for jumping in. It's lovely to meet you
in
the green room. And look, thank you so much for having me, for having Instagram and Meta more broadly today. It's an incredibly important space for us and has been for a very, very long time. I'm going to say we've got someone at Meta who is far better in this space probably than I am, Cindy Southworth. And I just want to give her a shout out because she's probably the most senior person within the tech industry who's been dedicated to keeping women safe who are using our platform, has been with us for many years. And I think it just shows you the dedication that we have within the Meta group to have very, very senior people who have come from outside of Meta and are advising us internally on making sure that we're doing what we should be doing when it comes to keeping women safe and more broadly around gender-based violence. A couple of things I just wanted to talk about really was, to begin with, we have policies that underpin how we think about keeping women safe who are using our platform and around gender-based violence. And those policies evolve all the time, and the way we evolve them is by working with experts from outside and, like Cindy, bringing experts into Meta to make sure that we are keeping a pace with how some of these issues have evolved and how they've changed, and particularly when it's really adversarial, because we all know this can be a really, really adversarial space. So we work with over 850 safety organizations, many of whom are specialists in this space. So we underpin with the policies what we call our community standards around keeping women safe when they're using our platforms. We then look at the tools that we need to ensure that those who are using our platform feel safe and that we are building tools that really resonate with them. And that means that we have the controls in place behind the scenes, we have the technology in place behind the scenes to be able to find and remove content and to keep people safe when they're using our platforms. But also, people want to feel empowered in this space as well. So we've built a lot of tools around that as well. And then the third part is around behavior and trying to really, really shape behavior and change behavior when people are using our platform. Example of how we've, I think, been really industry leading in this space is around NCII. So everyone, I'm sure, in the room and who's watching this is the sharing of non-consensual intimate imagery. It's an incredibly important space, an incredibly difficult space to be in if you have had an intimate image of yourself shared, particularly without your knowledge, but even with your knowledge, it is an absolutely horrific thing to happen to you. So Meta was one of the co-founders of Stop NCII, which is the leading organization around working across industry. We work together across industry to be able to find and remove that kind of content. But this also puts people into the driving seat, because the way this work step NCII works is that if we are made aware of intimate imagery that has been shared, that individual can go to stopncii.org. They can let the organization know a hash, what we call a hash for those. I can't see everyone in the audience because the lights are very bright, so if you're nodding along, it's a tech term, but it's not the image itself. That's really important. No one wants to think that their image is being shared. So they make a hash, which is kind of a digital footprint of that image. And then that hash is shared across the whole of the industry, everyone who's involved in Stop NCII, to be able to find and remove that image. So that's really, really important. It now has many, many members, and I think it has really been the industry-leading organisation to make sure that we are able to work together to be able to find and remove with the least amount of damage, psychological damage, to those whose images have been shared in this way. We also have a couple of other things that we do, and this is around the tooling space, which I think is really important. And as I said, it's been changing over time because, as we know and understand how adversarial individuals use this, and sometimes it is revenge porn. Sometimes it is someone you have known and been in a relationship with who is sharing this kind of imagery of you. Sometimes it's criminal gangs. So when we talk about sextortion, we're talking about usually criminal gangs, organized crime. And so we have to build a behavior, we have to build a technology to be able to recognize that sometimes it's someone you know, sometimes it's actually organized crime. So a couple of things we've done, I just wanted to shout out because they might be new to those in the audience is, and this is specific to Instagram direct messages. It's a very private space. We build it to be a very private space. But what we want to make sure is that people are not being messaged with imagery that could be really upsetting to them. So when you're first connecting with someone on Instagram now, you haven't followed them before, you're not connected with them before, that individual cannot send you an image as their first message to you. So this is really to stop cyberflashing. No one wants to have that first image being something that could be, particularly upsetting, and it's not why you come to Instagram. It's not why you're using your DM. So now it can only be text-based if that first message that is shared between you both. The second thing we've done is we are now blurring images in DMs if we detect that they could be nudity. This is really taking a very, very precautionary approach, and the way I talk about this is that this could be something really innocent. This could be that you're sharing a picture of your child with a friend or somebody on a beach that might be topless. It might be completely and utterly innocent. However, it might not. And so what we're doing is we're taking that more precautionary approach and we are blurring that image. So the individual, when they're sent it, we'll let them know this image could be nudity. We've blurred it, and we send them resources they can go and work with and connect with other organisations to help them do that. So there are three examples of, I think, where we are trying to lead the way as Meta and as Instagram, but also working across industry. And we'll talk about that in a little bit about how we're doing that as well.
Thank you so much. And to Valia, obviously, Match Group, I've heard names like Tinder and I'm out of that, so I don't know. So given that dating is such a key context for conversations about healthy relationships and safety, how is Match Group embedding prevention, education, and likewise user safety, especially in the dating experience?
Sure. Thank you very much. No thank you, everyone. Match Group, as you just mentioned, is the parent company of many popular dating apps, including Tinder, Hinge, Match.com, and over 30 different applications. And we look at safety in three phases, a bit similar structure, but different content. So there is the prevention piece, there is the intervention, and then there's the support. So the prevention, to your question, is what happened before. So there's a lot of awareness that's needed, there's a lot of education. We've had the chance to partner with No More to create the healthy dating guides that we make available through the entire portfolio of our apps, which is a download PDF that is accessible to everyone to understand what's acceptable and what's not. We do work with over in Europe, just what I'm focused on, over 150 different women-focused organizations on doing different kind of awareness, from in-app messaging to creating guides and resources for our users. That's the prevention piece. Intervention also has some sort of prevention components. One example that we have developed over the past few years and in collaboration with a lot of the NGOs we work with, so we're very proud of that, are two in-app prompts. We call that in-app prompts that are across our apps, which are when people are starting to engage in a conversation, will be nudging if we detect. So Different to our friends in social media, we do not encrypt messages, which means we're constantly moderating everything that's happening. And so when we detect what we consider abusive content or language that is not appropriate, we'll send a prompt that says, "Are you sure?" to the person who's about to send a message that says basically, "Are you sure you want to send that message?" And here we consider it's education because we're not blocking the message, we're encouraging the person to reconsider what they're about to send. Should they decide to pursue and still send the message, on the other side, we'll send another prompt to the receiver that says, "Does this bother you?" Which is, again, helping the person who receives the message on the other end to feel empowered to potentially report the message if they feel it was inappropriate. So that's a bit on the intervention. That's when the interaction happens. And then unfortunately, the third phase is when something actually happens and there is support that's needed. We do have a full suite of resources and support, including some reporting flows that we've built together with NGO partners, including No More, also RAIN in the US. They've helped us build a reporting flow that we make sure is trauma-informed and victim-focused. It doesn't necessarily send you immediately to law enforcement. It's first asking what you need, making resources available to you that are appropriate. So that's the third phase.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So for both of you, and we'll keep this tight as well because I can see if I go over time, I'll be in trouble. So, so beyond the internal policies, how can the private sector use the platforms that we have or the products that we have to shift the harmful norms and promote equality? How do you believe the private sector as a whole can do that?
Shall I kick off? So I think the private sectors can have an incredibly powerful role here. And I think what you saw, what we talked about with Stop NCII is just one example of where the industry has come together. And not just at the policy level. The policy level is incredibly important, but actually the technical level is working with engineers, now of course AI, at how we can make the approach as kind of friendly and understanding of the victim as we possibly can. And I think that's somewhere where the industry bringing tech know-how, engineering, as well as all of the policy expertise can have a huge change and benefit. I think the conversations that we have, organizations, bringing together forums like this are incredibly important to share that expertise. I mentioned sextortion a moment ago. I think if we'd been sitting here 5 or 6 years ago, that word probably wouldn't be being used. We probably knew maybe what it meant, but really the idea of these kind of hugely powerful organized crime organizations who are targeting both men and women, often teenage boys, unfortunately, are very susceptible to this as well. I think that's really that's something that is kind of new, unfortunately, and highly adversarial. So that is definitely a space that we need to all be working really, really closely together in. I mentioned AI. I think it's really important to note that our policies are for imagery that is AI generated or non-AI generated. People may have heard about Nudify apps as well, and this is again something I think 2 years ago we wouldn't be having this conversation. So Nudify apps are apps that you can download, and that can basically through AI recreate an image of yourself, using your likeness in an incredibly horrible, frankly, way. And we've got very, very strict rules at Meta that we do not allow for this. And we are working across industry to make sure that we do that. We've even gone so far as to take certain apps to court because of the behaviors that we've seen on the platform. So I use those examples because they're all very new, and you can see that this space, unfortunately, is, it's kind of quite rapidly moving, and I think it's where we have to work together really, really closely as industry, but also with the civil society sector, NGOs, experts in this space, so we don't stand still.
Thank you. I'm going to ask you that, and while I ask you, I'm going to get you both to think of my last question so I can finish early, not on time and get told off, all right? So I'm going to ask you that same question, and then I want you to think about what hope, for both of you, what hope do you have that the private sector can be a strong and lasting ally in this movement?
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, absolutely agree with Tara, the importance of working across the industry and with all range of partners is very, very important and critical to overcome the increasingly changing and sophisticated way that what we call bad actors are using in order to operate their crime. Some of the things we do cross-industry together with Meta and many others is intelligence briefings, data sharing, making sure that when we identify a crime group, we're able to share this across the board with telecoms, with banks, with a lot of different actors that have and need the knowledge to help counter that. So that's one part, which is just basically making sure we have shared goals to prevent and stop crime of all kinds, but particularly gender-based violence crime and organized crime against women. And then there is also what we can do together with policymakers, and we're here in Europe, in the UK, but also in Europe, working across very different markets and needing, frankly, the entire sector and industry and policymakers to wake up also to the need for safety innovation, for enabling smart regulation to happen. I'm just going to give an example of a feature we've recently launched in the US that's called Face Check, that's making sure that the person who creates the account is one and only one person. The biggest risk and threat for us on dating apps are what we call repeated offenders. So someone who will create multiple accounts to go after their victims. And with this kind of innovation, we are preventing that from happening. But that's that's using biometric technology for selfie video, and it's basically it's privacy designed, like it doesn't register your face, but it's currently completely impossible to explore these things in Europe because of the restraints of regulations that we have. So that's a very important topic that we want to bring on the table and make sure that working all together is also about designing these features and making sure people can use those products safely, and that means allowing for innovation.
Okay, so very succinctly from both of you, what gives you hope?
Do you like it? I do feel really hopeful. The reason I say I've got a 13-year-old son and a 16-year-old daughter, and we are talking about these issues now more than we've ever done before. So my 13-year-old son is growing up in a very, very different world to the world that I grew up in, and really does know and understand what gender-based violence is, and they understand what domestic violence is, and they know that it's not okay. Irish, you can hear from my accent, and I was growing up in Ireland. This was absolutely swept under the carpet. So I do feel very, very hopeful. I think that we are in a very different place, sitting kind of within Instagram. We were just talking about this in the green room. There are extraordinary communities on Instagram and more broadly on Facebook and other platforms of Meta and across the industry that are using our platforms to draw attention to these issues. And we have 3 billion people now who are monthly active users on Instagram, which would blow your mind. But that is connecting people across the globe. And if you are someone who's sitting in rural Ireland or rural Australia or rural Nepal, you feel like you have a community out there. And I feel very hopeful about that.
Good.
Yeah, that's very well said. Hope is also about being here together with a wide, diverse group of people and sharing the same goal of ending this. And yeah, I think the flip side, positive side of our type of businesses and platforms is that we can reach a lot more people and we can raise awareness on these things at a global and large scale. So hopefully we'll get there.
Well, thank you both. Thank you, Tara. Thank you, Barbara. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.